I don't talk to my kids about Tammy very often, but she knew I was coming to do an interview, and she started asking questions. And she's like, well, are you scared when I'm out, Mom? Like, what are you thinking? This is not where I wanted to go with this. Sorry. I hope you edit some of this out.
This is important for people to see.
I know. But it's hard.
It was 1992. The Chicago Bulls were national champs. It was Ditka's final year with the Bears. And there was another story, one with no ending. A killer never found. A vivacious young woman, Tammy Zywicki, went missing near mile marker 83. And to this day, there are no answers.
A young woman heads off to college but never gets there. Tammy Zywicki's car is found abandoned along the highway. That was 2 days ago.
She just dropped off her brother at Northwestern University in Evanston and set out on Interstate 80 for the long drive. She never made it.
Zywicki had left Chicago and was headed to Grinnell College, 250 miles away in Grinnell, Iowa. But she apparently made it only 90 miles to just a few miles outside Ottawa in LaSalle County. Tonight, her parents flew into Chicago from their home in New Jersey to help police in the investigation. They say they love their daughter dearly and just want her back.
My name is Dean Zywicki, and I am Tammy's older brother. It's really just one of those surreal things when you're in it. It's, nobody expects to be in a situation like that. It's, it's hard to recollect back that long, but it's one of those where every day would go by, it's like it's not real, essentially. I think you push the reality aside, just trying to focus on finding her.
For over a week now, the family and friends of Tammy have had to endure a kind of heartache the rest of us can't begin to understand. The agony of knowing something has happened to the young woman, but not knowing just what.
Did you hypothesize? What do you think happened?
I don't hypothesize if I can help it because it's ridiculously frightening.
Hours before they planned to fly back home to New Jersey, Tammy Zywicki's parents made one last visit to State Police Headquarters in LaSalle today. They're hoping one of the dozens of telephone tips coming into investigators might hold the key to the disappearance of the Grinnell College senior.
And we also feel that she is alive, and we're hoping that it's close by even.
Out on I-80 today, state troopers were looking closely at trucks rolling through. Big rigs which resemble the truck seen stopped alongside Tammy's disabled car Sunday afternoon. Troopers are looking for the driver, but have not found him yet. At the moment, investigators don't seem to know just what to make of a story being told by an Iowa truck driver. That truck driver, Robert Bullington, says that here, at mile marker 83 along Interstate 80, he saw Tammy, or a person he believes to be Tammy Zywicki, get into a car driven by a lone male driver. The trucker says it was an older, gray Chevrolet Celebrity with Nebraska license plates. He says he talked with the driver by CB radio and directed them to find help at a truck stop nearby.
The only thing I did was ask him, I said, what was the problem? He said, well, a car overheated or something, and I could hear him talking in the background, and he says, what would be a good place to take her to? And I said, well, there's exit 75, there's a 76 truck stop there.
While there is a truck stop and service station at exit 75 in LaSalle, nobody there remembers seeing anyone matching Tammy's description seeking help. But if the car had exited a few miles earlier at exit 81, the car would have had to travel only a few miles down the road to Starved Rock State Park, a heavily wooded area which could easily hide something terrible. Park conservation officers have been keeping an eye out for any signs. So far, they've seen nothing.
The few times that I went out driving, it was overwhelmingly scary. That as you're driving down roads in Illinois, it's wondering what's happened to my friend, because there is no way that she can be gone for this long without it being terrible.
The search for Tammy is over, and now police begin the murder investigation to hunt down her killer.
Illinois State Police are talking to detectives in Missouri tonight about the disturbing discovery of a young woman's body near Mount Vernon, Missouri.
The body of a young woman was found this morning along Interstate 44 by a truck driver. Police say the victim is in her late teens or early 20s and has been dead for 3 to 7 days. Missouri police have not yet been able to identify the woman or determine how she died. But Illinois police are interested in the case because the age, height, and weight of the woman found in Missouri are similar to those of 21-year-old Tammy Zywicki.
And the reason for that is simple. On the body found here was a T-shirt emblazoned with the legend, Eastside Eagles Soccer Club. That was the name of Tammy Zywicki's high school soccer team.
For 10 days, the family and friends of missing college student Tammy Zywicki have been waiting for hope, hoping for the best, fearing the worst. Their wait will last at least one day more. Tonight, the coroner of Lawrence County, Missouri, says it will be tomorrow at the earliest before he can make a positive identification of the body of a young woman found alongside a rural highway. For Tammy's family, it means one more day of holding on to the slimmest of hopes that she might still be alive. Tammy's classmates still hope too. They're holding candlelight vigils, hoping she will be found alive.
I am Amy Fort, and I was Tammy Zywicki's college roommate. We always felt safe on campus. We felt like we were almost living in a bubble, so to speak. Not that bad things didn't happen, but I think we had a sense of security, a sense of camaraderie, and a community. And then when this happened, the innocence of our early 20s was just ripped from our lives.
Yellow ribbons of remembrance are tied around trees on campus, and television reports keep students posted on developments in the investigation. But it's the not knowing that's beginning to wear on students and faculty alike.
Concrete answer. I think it's very difficult for the family and friends to have to wait so long. I think that it will be a relief no matter what the consequences are.
It's harder not to know because, whether or not she's alive or dead, it'd be easier if it was resolved.
Many students at Grinnell are promising to continue to hope for the best news as they brace for the worst, should it come in the hours ahead.
I knew that she was out there, she was in trouble. There was really 10 days of, I wasn't supposed to curse on this, but 10 days of hell.
10 days of hell. A body was found on day 9, but everyone hoped it wasn't Tammy.
Your imagination runs wild. You think the worst. You think of who might have taken her, who she might be with, what they've done to her. And so I think that feeling of helplessness, a feeling of loss, and you don't have anything to do except go to people on campus and talk to them, the people you know, your friends, just to have some comfort.
Is the most difficult of waits for Jenny Dowd. She's Tammy Zywicki's best friend, a schoolmate at Grinnell College, and organizer of the effort to find the missing student.
Most of what I was doing searching for Tammy was based in my parents' house.
For 9 days, Tammy's best friend, the girl from Oak Park, has refocused on the job and kept working even when the news is bad.
I'm just trying to wait for the news and keep busy with the stuff that we need to get done, and it's exhausting and it's really hard waiting, but I'm gonna find out tomorrow about this woman, and we're gonna keep searching for the truck.
They opened up their house, and that became essentially the base of operations.
From the nerve center of the search for Tammy in Oak Park, calls and faxes go out continuously. It is now as much an effort to find a suspect as it is to confirm the victim.
We still have the same goal, is to discover who abducted Tammy and discover the information about the truck, and so essentially we're doing the same things.
The key for family and friends is the artist's rendition of this semi-trailer truck with rust-colored diagonal stripes. Pictures of this truck are being faxed to trucking companies and magazines all over the country. So tonight here in Oak Park and at the family home in New Jersey, the grim wait continues.
A day later, it was revealed. It was Tammy.
Live from WBBM-TV Chicago, Curtis, McLennan, McFerrin, Baskerville. This is Channel 2 News at 10.
For 11 long days and nights, The family of Tammy Zywicki waited for her to walk back through the front door, or at least to call and say she was okay. Well, tonight their wait is ending in heartbreak. We know she was murdered. The body found by the road was hers. Her life ended by a stranger who probably didn't even know her name. This is all Tammy's family has left tonight, the pictures they will remember her by. And the family is filling in some of the blanks in this story of the murder on the road to Iowa. Police have told them Tammy may have refused help from at least 2 people when her car broke down. They think she may have been caught off guard, forced out of her car, then kidnapped and stabbed 7 times and left in a ditch. Her body was found Tuesday by a trucker just off Interstate 44 near Joplin, Missouri. The medical examiner had to use dental records this morning to confirm the body was Tammy's. Her family wants to thank everyone who helped in the search, but they say their pain won't end until Tammy's killer is brought to justice. They want to know who killed their daughter.
2 people, from what we understand, at least offered that assistance, and she did not get in the vehicle with them. That's why we feel she was either caught off guard while he was checking under the hood or whatever, maybe even observing the traffic at the time, and probably caught her off guard and grabbed her and put her in the truck.
The investigation is now shifting to the driver of a mystery truck. The truck was seen near Tammy's broken-down car the day she disappeared. Police believe the driver was one of the last people to see her alive. He may be the killer or know who the killer is.
Tammy's friends and family have been front and center since her disappearance. First, they tried to find her. Tonight at their self-styled command center in Oak Park, they're resting and getting ready to help police track down her killer. Channel 2's John Duncanson is live at Oak Park at the home that's become a headquarters in the Zywicki investigation. John?
Adele, the family inside this house is taking a well-deserved rest tonight. Earlier they told me that over 2,000 people are now involved in trying to help circulate that composite drawing of that suspect truck. They also say that trucking firms from as far away as the East Coast have volunteered to help in that effort. So as late as yesterday, the family inside this house was trying to find and working toward finding Tammy Zywicki alive. But beginning tomorrow, they'll concentrate their efforts on finding her killer. Tonight, the drapes are pulled in this house that has acted as the command center first in the hunt for Tammy Zywicki and now for her killer. The Oak Park family inside, friends of the murdered girl, are finally taking a rest. Neighbors have chipped in, bringing food and caring for the family's children.
It's really remarkable what they've undertaken in response to this tragic situation.
The first law enforcement agency to get word that the body had been positively identified as that of Tammy Zywicki was the local sheriff's department here in the sleepy little Missouri farming town of Mount Vernon. Right now, the only physical evidence investigators have are Tammy's body and the fitted sheet and red blanket the killer used to wrap the body before dumping it alongside the southwest Missouri interstate sometime last week. The bloodstain that still remains in the gravel along the access road was caused when police removed the body. They brought it out of the brush and brought it up here for examination after its discovery. Investigators don't believe the young woman was killed anywhere near here. The theory is that Tammy was stabbed to death someplace else, and that the killer had been driving the body for some time across Illinois and Missouri, then late last week drove up to the access road and simply dumped the body into the underbrush.
I also didn't have any experience at 20 years old, 21 years old, knowing or understanding how somebody could be so horrible and hurt somebody like that.
When Tammy disappeared, she was doing what many students do this time of year, drive to college. Tammy's heading to the Iowa campus of Grinnell College. Tonight on that campus, students are finding out their friend is gone. It's an emotional scene. Classmates embrace, holding on to each other after days of holding on to hope. As they wipe their tears, they cannot wipe out the memory of a young woman they'd all grown to know and love.
What happened to Tammy impacted an entire campus, not just the college students, but our college professors, our staff who worked at Grinnell College, and the community.
Tammy was my student, and I'm just overwhelmed with grief with the fact that another woman won't have a chance to contribute to this world. She was a wonderful person, and I'm just quite overwhelmed about that.
It makes us all feel incredibly vulnerable. I have to drive tomorrow to Chicago on Highway 80, and I am terrified.
One of the big things is just had that fear in the pit of your stomach for the last couple of days. At least now, even though it's not the answer we wanted to hear, at least it's something that we can deal with now.
Grinnell College is an amazing place filled with really, really smart people who all got busy together and tried to make something better.
For Jen's part, she stayed in Oak Park. Same place, new mission.
Channel 2's Jim Avila is standing by at the Oak Park home that has become a command post for Tammy's friends. Jim, what's happening there?
Well, Bill, because of the large number of people who've reported missing almost every day, it's very important for people to get the word out right away. That's what happened here in this Oak Park home. It's been the command center. It's been where the media has been calling, where all the information about the Zywicki case has been handled.
Command center was the right word. It was, hey, somebody go pursue this. Hey, here's an opportunity to go get the word out. So I remember just everybody kind of taking on different pieces of it and going and making that happen.
But today, all that slowed down because today was a time for grief. Reality is heavier than hope, so the walk from porch to sidewalk was incredibly long today. The news Tammy Zywicki's friends had hoped not to hear was official. Jennifer Dowd, the young woman from Oak Park who went to college with Tammy in Iowa and led the nationwide search effort from her parents' home, spoke with the Zywicki family in New Jersey this morning, and after consultation, thanked all those who had prayed with him for Tammy's safe return.
We feel as much anger as sorrow at the realization of the brutal and dehumanizing conduct that occurred. We hope that some good can come out of this, including the capture of the person that was responsible. We don't want them to be able to kill again.
And after all this time, 30 years, we still don't know who.
The problem is a lack of solid evidence in the hunt for Tammy Zywicki's killer, but that doesn't mean investigators haven't formed ideas about a suspect. Forensic psychiatrists are taking down all available information on the case. They will compare that data with similar crimes and come up with a psychological fingerprint of a killer. Somewhere, someone out on this highway killed a young woman. Now the problem is finding out who.
When I say it's likely to be someone 20 to 35, I'm saying that probably 65 to 70% of people who have committed a crime like this fall within that age range.
Forensic psychiatrist Dr. Mark McClung looks for the smallest clues to build psychological profiles that may lead to finding killers. With no suspects and little evidence in the Zywicki case, investigators are left to record details of where Tammy Zywicki disappeared and where her body was found. Record the location of the incident, as well as the characteristics of the victim, such as the number of stab wounds. They plug that into an FBI computer, out of which investigators will compile a composite of a killer.
This is a person who doesn't see people as people with their own needs, feelings, and value. He sees them as an object for his own pleasure, gratification, or to use in some way or another.
Comparing the very tiny parcel of evidence so far in this case, Dr. McClung says a psychological profile would tend to show a suspect who is a white male, 25 to 35 years old, single or divorced, a loner, working in a low-level job, but who has often been unemployed. He likely has a history of criminal activity, probably involving sexual assault. Statistically, he abuses drugs or alcohol. Psychological profiling won't lead police to Tammy Zywicki's killer, but it sets parameters of who they're looking for. For in an unsolved case with no witnesses, anything helps.
You both narrowed your field of search, and also by that behavioral description, you may be able to make a couple of predictions about what the person's going to do subsequent.
Now, simply put, investigators are trying to do what they're trying to do is narrow down the population of potential suspects. For example, today they're looking for a trucker who may have been with Tammy Zywicki. If they find someone employed for a short time with a spotty history, that person might then bear further investigation. It's a small piece of a large puzzle, but right now, it seems, it's all investigators have.
I think at first I was angry. I was angry that somebody could do this to her. I was angry at all the things she'd been looking forward to that she wasn't going to get to do because of this person. And I think it takes a while to get past that anger and be able to actually grieve.
You just kind of get those flashbacks. And I mean, luckily, I haven't been in that situation. None of my kids have been in that situation where something has happened and a stranger has stopped to help. It just hasn't been there. But yeah, it's definitely something that goes through your mind all the time. When you see a case like this and you hear about these things happening, it takes away some of that innocence of the world for sure. You just didn't have these outlets to get information out. So it was a newspaper article, it was a news article, it was a phone call. I think back then, even the internet consisted of like chat rooms and things. You didn't have a full-fledged internet where you could put things up there. So yeah, it was extremely difficult. It took a lot of people power going and making things happen.
Pre-internet, after this happened, when the news, as it does, moves on from things, when you obviously haven't, you probably didn't know. You probably thought everyone was forgetting. Nobody cared. The cops cared, right? Was there ever that time in the past?
I think there's been a little bit of it. I think the thing that's hard for me is that after her body was identified and we had the funeral and the burial, I wasn't in touch with her family as much anymore. It was hard for her dad to talk to me, and I think her family wanted me to be able to move on too. So there was a time where it was only on the anniversary when the media would cover it that I would be hearing about it and know that other people were thinking about her, because I certainly was. Even if I wasn't in touch with them, I was thinking about how they were doing and how hard this was. But the press kept bringing it up, and every few years there'd be another story on one network or another, and then on the anniversaries it would be covered by many networks, which, considering how hard it was to get any of the networks to consider this story newsworthy, once it was newsworthy, it stayed newsworthy, and it became something that people were interested in hearing about and knowing what was going on.
Now, if this feverish nationwide search by both police and the public finally pays off, it'll be largely due to the efforts of people who knew and loved Tammy.
You say weren't interested at first. Go over that.
You hear that a lot of times at this age, people run away. They weren't willing to open an investigation with the state police yet. I was trying to get the media to cover it because her family and I knew that she had not run away and that something bad had happened. So I started calling the different media outlets here, trying to get them to run a story, and received answers from all of them that it wasn't really newsworthy, that there were any number of young blonde women that were missing or killed in the Midwest, and this wasn't going to be something that would be a story. And I got angry and just really, couldn't understand why that in itself wasn't a story. The fact that so many people could be taken and it wasn't newsworthy. So I kept calling and eventually I told one of the networks that the other network was coming to cover the story. And then I told that network a different one was coming, and eventually they all showed up and covered it.
That good manipulation. Tammy Zywicki's family and friends mounted an unprecedented effort to get people all over the country involved in the search. They made countless appearances on television and blanketed the Midwest with Tammy's picture. Now, as a result of all that, everyday people like these who gathered today in Chicago are trying to help in the search for her killer, some saying the murder is part of a tragic pattern.
Men must get angry that other men are beating, raping, and killing their daughters, their mothers, their sisters, their wives, their girlfriends, and their friends.
It hits you like this could happen to your daughter. This could happen to your niece, could happen to your sister. So people think about it that way.
Before technology, a place to crowdsource solutions, Tammy was just another unsolved homicide. Then, a Facebook group popped up.
My name is Patrick Jones. The name of the Facebook page is Who Killed Tammy Zywicki. I seen it in the paper and it just stuck with me all those years. And then when Facebook popped up, I decided, why not give it a shot. We had like 60 members at one time.
After the Facebook group Who Killed Tammy Zywicki was formed, I wasn't sure what it was all about. And but then I started to see that more and more people that I knew, including her mother, were a part of the group. And so I joined the group, and it has grown every year. There have been new people that have joined, that have wanted to help raise the story up and keep it out in public. And it's definitely, I think it's really opened my eyes to how many people knew about what happened to Tammy and heard about that and had it impact them in some way.
it's really been kind of interesting that it's been so active, and it just seems to really pick up, which is the really fascinating part about it. I wouldn't even want to take a guess at the number of cases like this that just get forgotten. I think this truly is a testament to the kind of person she was, and the people she touched. That's really what it comes down to for me.
She left my life 30 years ago, and she's still a big part of the choices I make and the way I react to people and the way I think about things. I mean, I have 2 kids who are heading off to college in the next couple of years, and so I'm in that other end of the perspective, thinking, what would it have been like to be her parents?
CBS 2's kept up the search for answers 20 years later. Our Mike Parker in 2012, still doing the story.
I believe it can be solved, and that's what the most important thing to me. We can identify, I believe, the killer.
Retired Illinois State Police Master Sergeant Martin McCarthy was a member of the task force investigating the 1992 abduction and murder of Tammy Zywicki. Although he's been off the job for 13 years, he hasn't given up the search for her killer.
This isn't my first rodeo. I've done homicides for many, many years. The most obvious guy is the guy who did it.
Our Dana Kozlov spoke to Tammy's heartbroken mother in 2017, marking 25 years.
There's someone out there. Please come forward.
A quarter of a century has passed, but the plea from Tammy Zywicki's mother, Joanne, is the same. Help investigators find her daughter's killer and give her closure.
Anything's possible.
We're going to reassess the evidence, send it for new DNA testing at our FBI laboratory in Quantico. The evidence could have the DNA of the offender in it.
Investigators also want to know what happened to Tammy's 35mm camera, her Loris watch with an umbrella that played Raindrops Are Falling on My Head, and her red and white St. Giles soccer patch. Sources tell me agents believe her killer is dead. State police say there's no proof. Where do you fall into that mindset?
Well, I have an open mind about it. Because even if this person is dead, there's possibility there were other people with him. There were other people who helped him. And there has to be other people that knew about it.
There's a chance, someone who watches this might be the impetus to something important. What would you say to them?
I think I would have to extend them the same grace that I extend everyone in dealing with something like this. Who knows why they would not have shared the information, whether it was out of fear or out of loyalty to somebody. I think I would be thankful that they came forward with information, and I would appreciate that. I do think that even today, there are so many unsolved murders out there or disappeared people. And anytime somebody can share information that can help bring some closure to family and friends, it's amazing if people can be brave enough to do that. But I don't want to make any assumptions about why they would not have come forward any time within the last 30 years, because who knows?
Even today, if I were to hear a certain song, if I were to hear Blondie, I would think of Tammy immediately, and I could start crying about it. I mean, it's very present. It's not something I think about every day, and I don't think our community thinks about it every day. But there's still an unsolved case. Her mother still does not have a solution. Her brothers do not have a solution. Her family. And they deserve to have a break on this. They deserve to have some answers. And it makes me hurt very badly for them for not having some closure to this terrible tragedy.
It can just get kind of overwhelming. I know that's not an emotion, but that's what it feels like sometimes. It's you're overwhelmed by the amount of effort and time people put into doing this, the amount of effort and time people put into starting this and keeping this going. So that's the word I come up with. I know it's not an emotion, but it that's what it feels like. There's just so much involved in that. That's the word I keep coming back to, and it's just great. So grateful for grateful for the people that keep this going.
Any member of the group, any member, can go in there, view all the files. As you know, you were on there. All the files are public domain. We didn't make anything private.
If the person with information knows who killed Tammy, the person who killed Tammy is a dangerous, horrible person. And so I could see why they wouldn't have come forward for their own safety.
And now 30 years, and still no answers. But there's hope. Someone knows something, and they'll come forward for Tammy.